And welcome into Getting Help from Uncle Sam, or in the state of Alabama, we call Getting Help from Auntie Alabama, because you do have people that represent you. They're in the House of Representatives, and on the Senate side, people represent you also, even though sometimes you don't get to know who they are. Today you're going to find out in District 25, your Senator Will Barfoot. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. It's been
Always
a while.
Good to see you, sir.
Absolutely. And of course, your district is part of Elmore County,
Right.
part of Montgomery County, all
Right.
of Crenshaw County.
All of Crenshaw County, about probably 2/3 of Elmore County, and
Okay.
maybe 3/4 or so of Montgomery County.
Does Clyde Chambliss have part of Elmore too?
He does.
He starts where you end.
Hey, that's correct.
Or you start where he ends.
I start with it. Debatable, huh?
Amen.
Which side of the road
That's right.
each of us have. But Clyde and I both share Elmore County, and then Senator Hatcher in Montgomery share Montgomery with him. But as you said, I'm the only senator for Crenshaw County. So.
Right. So basically, on the Senate side, there's not many more than, what is it, 26 senators?
There's 27 Republican senators. There's 35 statewide.
35 statewide for the whole. That, I was just to say Republican at that point. And basically, you guys meet once a year, supposedly.
Right.
And the next session will start next spring.
That's correct.
But right now, what I like to tell our viewers is, if they have anything they want to know, or any legislation that they want to get to you, the best time to do it's not when you're in session.
Yeah, that of course we're willing to talk to folks all the time.
Right.
But you're correct. I mean, when we're in session, you've got to keep your head on a swivel, and you've got to keep your eye on the legislation that's coming through. Mm-hmm. Certainly, it's important to hear from constituents about the pending legislation, whether they're for it or against it.
Right.
But if it's a detailed, long conversation about things, sometimes it's difficult while we're in session, because we are sometimes staying there till 10 o'clock at night, and you've got to be on the floor for a vote. You've got to be in committee rooms, and so it just doesn't leave a lot of time for any in-depth conversations while we're in session.
And what do you, in this district, District 25, what is the composition? Is it, obviously Montgomery is the big city.
Right.
Now, Prattville would be, part of Prattville and Millbrook is still Elmore County. That's right. Probably Clyde's area over there.
It is. That's correct.
Yeah.
So in Elmore County, basically from Wetumpka, if you think of Elmore County as a clock, I basically take in from 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So about 3/4, maybe a little bit less, but just visually, that's kind of what to look at. That area in Elmore County expanded a little bit. We had the census here 2 years ago, and every 10 years we redraw districts, and so my area in Elmore County expanded a little bit. My area within Montgomery kind of contracted a little bit. Senator Hatcher in District 26, you have pretty close to the same population in each district, so he had to take in some more folks.
So does 25 encompass then Pike Road?
It does.
Okay, so you do in the Montgomery County probably all the way up to the Macon County line.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Bullock County, Macon County line. So we take in more rural areas of Montgomery, generally speaking, than Senator Hatcher does, and I would suspect the vast majority of his areas are voting population folks, constituents are inside the city limits. So.
And most of the time inside your district, there's, how do the people feel about things like gambling? Have you?
Yeah, so it's funny. Even in my own experience, I'm not the guy who's going to be down the State House steps saying we've got to have gambling and here's this bill and I'm the sponsor of it. But I do think any legislation that comes forward from a gambling standpoint, we need to make sure that it is a palatable bill. In other words, that it's something, if the people are going to give an opportunity to vote on, that it at least does what it's supposed to do, and that is, hopefully give them the right to vote on whatever that issue is, gambling, type of gambling it may be. And then that you make sure that the money is going where it's supposed to go.
That's exactly right. And of course, you have 2 casinos in your district.
I do, yeah.
Not to mention those that may be on the side that we have no idea what it's about.
So it's interesting. You're right about that. And one of the potential pieces of legislation that will be coming in the spring, actually was filed last year, is a gambling commission, that it will not expand gambling necessarily. That bill
Right.
wouldn't. There may be other bills that follow, but it would allow a commission to say, look at what's already passed.
That's it.
There are 20 some odd constitutional amendments to the Constitution of 1901, which prohibits gambling, except in those amendments, those times that have been amended. So
Right.
that commission would look at those constitutional amendments that are in place that give that exemption, find out what's being done legal and illegal, and tax those entities who are operating legally.
Right.
You may have heard the Department of Revenue, and I think through the court process, found, I forget the exact number, maybe as much as $60 million in back taxes that a casino facility over in Greene County.
Yeah, that's right, that they owe.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing about it, you know and I know, gambling's there,
Right.
but it needs to be regulated, and that's all legislation's going to do.
That's right.
Whether you're for it or against it, if it's there, you might as well regulate it.
That's right. Make sure that you know what's happening. with it.
Great. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And as we mentioned earlier, if you want to get a hold of Senator Barfoot, any of your representatives, do it when they're not in session. Again, if you are going to do it when they're in session, just say, here's how I feel about this law,
Right.
rather than just engage in a lengthy conversation. Save that for these times. I'm going to have you come back where we can talk about a peek under the tent for next year.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
And just remember this, they're here to serve you. We'll be right back right after this.